Welcome one and all to another performance analysis of Street Fighter V on the PS4 in the more important and obviously the bigger portion of the game, online play. As it stands at the moment, I won't be taking a detailed look at this game or the PC version outside of this. One, because the interest seems to be very low, at least on the video that I've put up. And also, the game is so unfinished and incomplete that there's so much more coming from March and June, including a full-on cinematic single player and obviously all the promises they made, and the fact that the online portion of the game still has issues. I couldn't connect for the first 24 hours, as I believe nobody could, because they hadn't prepared well enough for the expected influx of online gamers. Now, this is not a new thing. It's obviously happened very regularly. In fact, I don't know any launch game that's multiplayer orientated online doesn't have these kind of issues, so I'm not going to get too beat up about that, and they did sort it pretty quickly. So you can now jump into an online match reasonably efficiently without a huge amount of distress. Now, one of the top tips I'll give you is if you are searching for a game and you haven't found one with about 10 or 15 seconds, then quit the search and research. That usually finds a game much quicker, and that's what I've found from my test so far. As I've already said, the game isn't finished, with the online portion missing so many features that it should really have. There's no way to view people playing the game, there's no way to create lobbies of a room full of people or your friends or anyone else you want to compete with. You literally have to fight, search. You can create a room with one person in it, and that makes it very boring and very stale. So obviously there's a lot more to come, and they have launched this game, in my opinion, too early. What they should have done, this is my opinion, is they should have released it digitally only for £20 and called it the Tournament Edition, and then released the full disc version and obviously an upgrade to people that bought the digital version in June or March, whenever they get around to finishing the whole game off, and that way it would have been a much better marketing ploy and pretty much stopped all of the public outcry and issues right now. And also, some of the reviews should have been more transparent and been clear on just how lacking it actually was. I am well into games, as you may know, and I'm well up and well versed on what's going on, and even this came as a bit of a surprise with the lack of content. And also, in some ways, the performance. This is the first big Capcom game that's using the Unreal 4 engine. Again, one of the biggest hitters that's coming from this engine so far, and the early signs here are the engine isn't quite finished, and there's been quick wins chosen to get this game out of the gate. And it shows. There's obviously signs here that the PS4 is struggling. There's no motion blur, shadows are quite dithered, backgrounds are really lacking, the content is really somewhat just feels unfinished, like I say. But we'll look at all these things, and I do believe we're going to see quite a few patches and improvements to both versions, and I think it's probably the best bet to basically avoid this game now unless you're a hardcore gamer, and wait to see what I come up with when the game gets updated and patched around March and June, and see what both versions look like then, which will probably be a fairer representation of what the team can deliver with the Unreal 4 engine across PC and PS4. Right now, it just feels a little bit rough around the edges. So in terms of the online side, we saw that single player pretty much in gameplay is a lock solid 16 millisecond delivery at 60 FPS all the time, and online is pretty close. You're not really going to notice the few drops that you do get in games, and some games are worse than others. Obviously this is online, and lag can be an issue and connectivity can be an issue, but in terms of what they're doing with the netcode and how they're syncing the frames, is literally locked. All Street Fighter games and pretty much all beat 'em ups have to be linked to the animation frames, and when you can jump in and jump out and put your sequences in for blocking, for defending, for attacking, and obviously stringing together combinations. So what they're doing here is they're syncing frames by the looks of things, and there's a good example here where I had a very bad game connected to an online. You can see it here on screen now, where the frame rate went completely mad. But not only that, you can see that we're getting slow down of frames. This obviously syncs up with the engine trying to resync both people into the fight, but also you're seeing dropped frames. So both me and the other side, the other client, will be seeing different dips at different points on this video. If I could capture both sides, you'd see what I'm talking about. You can see how the engine is trying to pair up both clients so that the frames are in sync at all times, and when the connection is this bad. And don't get me wrong, this is a very rare situation. This didn't happen very regularly. By and large, it's very solid indeed, but this is a good example of how the actual online pairing connection is working and how the engine is actually slowing down. And this is a good system because, like I say, all beat-em-ups have to be driven this way. They're going to be linked with the animation system, physics and fighting, because there literally is no other way of doing it. And that means that online fighting has to fall into the same restriction, and when you get issues like this, the only way to solve it is to drop frames, and this means that it's trying to make it balanced and fair for both parties. Don't get me wrong, both of us here in this fight were struggling like mad, and in the end it simply disconnected us. The only thing they really do need to improve is be much quicker at picking up the low ping rates that are causing these kind of issues and this latency issue, and disconnect much faster, because otherwise you literally have to have people that quit the game, and that's a pain in the arse to reload everything. So this extreme example aside, we're still looking at a game that averaged out very well into the mid 59s and therefore has got an average frame rate of 16.67 milliseconds over 10 minutes of analysed footage here of online. So there's no real issues playing online outside of a few drops here and there unless you're really hardcore and an expert player. All I can say is the game does need some work. If you compare it to something like here, Killer Instinct Season 2 on the Xbox One, I know it's running at 900p, but visually it's in another league. And then you bring up something like Mortal Kombat X, not only that, it has a complete single player line, a much bigger roster of fighters, more backgrounds, and obviously a complete and accomplished suite of online features and functionality that just leaves Street Fighter V in the shade. And these kind of games that Street Fighter needs to compete with, at the end of the day, things have moved on, and this means that Street Fighter, even though it's much loved by a great many people, it really is a mixed bag. It's got great art on the characters and animation, but everything else seems to be lacking. Aside the core gameplay and control, which is obviously as sweet as ever. But I just can't shrug the feeling that in a few months we'll be looking at a drastically different game that will be changed across the board. As always, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe and share as much as you can. You can view more information on this and other things across my channel or on my website. Please leave all your thoughts and feedback below. Please watch a few more minutes of footage of on-screen action of me getting my head kicked in or kicking others. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you very soon on the next.
Fight! Hadouken!